Our
Thank you very
next
much.
speaker is coming from Cyprus. Anna Farmaki is going to tell us what Cyprus is doing to progress the post-COVID tourism. Cyprus has done very well so far. So, and is talking to several other countries about bilateral agreements. So they're talking to Greece and they're talking to some other countries in order to take things forward. And I cannot not mention what you've got behind you, Anna, because you are blessed with the beautiful painting at the back. Thank you, Anna.
So I will take a different approach. I don't have a presentation to present, so I will just basically give a brief discussion of what has been going on in Cyprus. Like you said, we are in a relatively better position compared to other Mediterranean countries, maybe because we are an island, a bit more isolated, also because the government has taken drastic measures following the model that Carlos also explained. Hotels have closed down, retail stores, restaurants, schools, everything has closed down. And now the government has taken the decision to ease the restrictions. So at the moment, we are going through this challenging and important transitional phase because schools will reopen very soon. And we see that retail stores have also opened. So we need to see during these last 2 weeks that are coming up, what will happen, because I think this will signal what needs to be done in the future. Now, I've spent the weekend trying to read articles related to the measures that the government is taking in terms of tourism. And there is a plethora of articles in newspapers, citing various opinions. There are webinars that are being organized by the Ministry of Tourism. But in all of the things that I have read, I haven't read a concrete decision in terms of what will happen in the near future. And I completely understand the side of the government on this point, because if the government makes a decision at the moment as to what should be done, it will be criticized that its decisions are premature. Because like you said before, you know, we live in very uncertain times. If the government doesn't do anything and you know, takes a more, let's say, reluctant approach in terms of making some decisions, then it might again be accused of, you know, not having been reactive enough. Now, what I have taken from the things that I have heard from colleagues and from policymakers and so on, is that we need to wait these 2 weeks to pass to see, entering June, how the situation will be, and then after reassessing the situation, decide what will be done with the tourism industry, which is the main, you know, foundation of our economy. So I think there are two things that we need to consider here. The immediate short-term activities that need to be done, or decisions that need to be taken, provided that the situation will not turn for the worse, and then the long-term aspects. And you know, I think we've heard some wonderful ideas from Marina and from Maria in terms of, you know, the long-term aspects and the future of tourism. So short-term, what we know in Cyprus is that funding will be given in the form of benefits to hotel employees. Of course, we do have employees now that are complaining, saying that you know, due to the seasonality of the industry, we are unemployed for 6 months. So how can we survive with a benefit which will be more or less 50% of our salary for the rest of the 6 months? So this is an issue that goes back to the nature of the product of Cyprus, the tourist product, which is very seasonal. I've heard various opinions in terms of the operational standards of hotels, for instance, leaving a 24 gap between checkout and check-in, using specific cleaning products, trying to encourage contactless check-in. There's also discussion in terms of opening the airport mid-June. And something that came from policymakers in terms of suggestions is that perhaps we can target neighboring countries, because the key target markets of Cyprus, Russia, UK, and Germany, have been badly hit. So I don't see the tourism season operating as it was Without wanting to be a pessimist, I think the tourist season this year is lost, and at best, what the government can do is perhaps try to target the domestic tourists. It's really, really premature to say what can be done in terms of international travel, because another question is, if tourists will be allowed to travel, what about the quarantine, self-quarantine rules? You know, how will this be done? I read that in the UK, Boris Johnson said that people entering the UK will need to quarantine themselves for 2 weeks. So how will tourism evolve within these restrictions? This is a critical question. Now, what I know is that the large hotel units in Cyprus will not open for this season. So 5-star luxury large hotels find it financially not cost effective to open, so they will reopen in the best case scenario in March 2021. So this is why I'm saying that I'm a bit pessimist in terms of the tourist season at the moment. But I do believe that this situation highlights the need to be more proactive generally, something that we are not very good at, I think, in Cyprus. We need to start thinking of the long-term developmental and planning aspects of the Cyprus tourism industry. And I think we go back to the phrase, if you put all of your eggs in one basket, then you're following a risky approach. So in Cyprus, we have seen a financial crisis in 2013, which in a way justified the rather unsustainable large-scale luxury development that we have been following in the last decade. So perhaps we need to take a step back and ask ourselves, what can we learn from this situation? And perhaps try to see if we can offer a variety of tourist products that will also include niche tourism, rather than fall back on this packaged or all-inclusive mass tourism type of tourism. I think there are great opportunities that require boldness. And I'm very much afraid that once the dust settles, because this too shall pass at some point, I'm afraid that we're going to go back to easy money, fast money, and usually that happens with large-scale mass tourism. So I would advise the tourism authorities here to be very, very cautious, not just in what they will do now in the next couple of weeks, but also try to take lessons from this and try to see how we can, as an island that depends on tourism, become perhaps more resilient overall by following more sustainable development of tourism. But perhaps investing in more alternative tourism forms, but also in a more synergetic developmental approach. Like you said, something that has been discussed is perhaps developing some networks and partnerships with other destinations. So there are opportunities that we can exploit, but these require bold decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. You raise a whole range of issues in terms of operational, strategic, and longer term. And I think you're absolutely right to kind of break it into different stages, because I think the first issue is, when do we actually manage to reignite the destinations, and when can we see people coming through the door? Has Cyprus announced a day of allowing tourists to come in without quarantine?
They have announced that most likely, provided that the situation will remain as it is, that the airport will open mid-June. But I do not see the target markets of Cyprus returning for this season. The British and the Russians are definitely out of the questions. I heard a second wave of coronavirus cases is now happening in Germany, so I think we can scrap Germany off. I did hear the idea of targeting Israel, which is a neighboring country, and for me, this is something that should have been done earlier on. We do have Israeli tourists, of course, coming throughout the years, but we need to target neighboring countries in the Middle East and in the Arab world, I think, more strongly. And another issue that needs to be discussed, and I was discussing this with a colleague, is in terms of operational standards, how will this 24-hour gap between checkout and check-in work when Cyprus, to a great extent, relies on tour operators? And we know how tour operators work. You know, they bring in the aircraft, they unload it, load it, and then it goes back again. So there are various issues that need to be considered. And I think that the challenges will be of a practical nature, given the developmental route that Cyprus has followed all these years. So if we do want to...
So, and the issue is, it's not only the operational aspects, but also the financial aspects, because the tour operating charter flights kind of mode operates in a specific business model, which operates in a particular way. If you've got an aircraft being empty at the destination, or doing one of the legs empty, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So there's a lot of issues that we're going to be talking, especially on the second panel. We'll talk a lot about more operational and micro level issues. Okay, Anna, would you like to say something more, or?
I think the previous speakers have covered some great ideas that we have heard, and I do hope that some of this will materialize, because this situation, if anything, has shown us, you know, that we are given an opportunity where we went to square zero in a way, so we're back to basics. Let's take this opportunity, be bold, and try to change, not just redevelop by redeveloping on the existing foundations, but let's change the foundations and, you know, try to be bold and bring some substantial changes in an industry that needs changes.
Thank you very much. I think we'll be discussing a lot about redesign and re-engineering towards 2030, because I think inevitably we'll be looking to that. Having said that, a lot of the conversations, academic conversations that I hear do not necessarily take advantage of a lot of the issues in terms of infrastructure investment and what's happening in the marketplace. So I think it's a really more complicated kind of thing. And I'm really keen to trying to help the sector Reignite start and then have these conversations, because those will take us forward. Thank you very much, Anna.